The following test of learners' cognitive integration of resources was conducted by Sweller and Chandler. Cooper reported on their unpublished paper in 1990. Novice learners were given the following resources for instruction. The learning outcome was to gain a knowledge of insulation resistance testing. Test 1 included a diagram with accompanying but separated textual notes, while Test 2 provided the diagram with integrated textual notes. Trainees presented with the integrated format, Test 2, displayed significantly greater learning of the presented material than did trainees presented with the information in split source format. The enhancement in learning was displayed in both the written tests of theory and practical tests of application. Moreover, the superior performance of the integrated format group was observable both immediately after training had completed and also 3 months later in follow-up tests. The judicious application of textual data in the second test scenario is equivalent to reducing extraneous cognitive load in favour of germane cognitive load. Unlike extraneous cognitive load, large amounts of information requiring excessive working memory, germane cognitive load enhances learning, according to Sweller. The cognitive process in this example, as applied to novices, consists of the intrinsic load, that's the learning task, extraneous load and germane load. In Test 1, the manner of presentation of information required to process the task requires a higher level of elemental interactivities than the presentation of information in Test 2. Test 1 therefore carries a higher extraneous cognitive load than Test 2. Test 2, on the other hand, because of refined instructional design techniques, has a higher germane load and results in more efficient learning. That is, the working memory is able to process the information more easily and commit the new learning to long-term memory schemas. This simple test illustrates the importance of instructional design. The manner in which information is provided affects the efficiency of working memory. The task, understanding how to test resistance, is the intrinsic load. The extraneous load, textually integrated in the diagram or presented as a split reference, together with germane load, are additive. The total cannot exceed limited working memory. The instructional design of Test 2 reduces the extraneous load and frees the working memory resources for germane load, which creates schema acquisition and automation. John Sweller has noted that from a structural perspective, the manner in which students process information will differ markedly depending upon the extent to which that information has been previously organized in long-term memory. Cognitive load theory attempts to provide guiding principles for instructional design that can accommodate the needs of students who have different knowledge levels, since the difference between the novice and the experienced in any particular domain of learning is directly related to working memory characteristics. An example of language learning with scaffolding to facilitate understanding. If I were to say to you, Shalom, Ani Mora Shakha, Anaknu Lamadnu Ivrit Hayom, Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. The chances are that if you have never heard Hebrew, you would not know the language being spoken. You may not be able to distinguish between words, where one word ends and another begins. If you knew a little Hebrew, you might recognize the language, and even be able to read some of the words if they were presented visually. That is, if you know to read from right to left. However, since Hebrew is a consonantal language, you may not be able to read all the words if you are a novice in Hebrew language. The addition of vowel pointers might help you to look up words in a dictionary or pronounce them. With this help, you may still experience difficulty in cognition until I provide a translation, word by word. Hello, my name is Elizabeth. I am your teacher. We are studying Hebrew today. Hear, Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord is one. Every instructional aid that I give you helps you to learn Hebrew, so that you will in a short time be able to recite the first line of the daily prayer, Shema, and even sing it. Shema Israel Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad.
Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai.
If you are a proficient Hebrew speaker and reader, you will not need any structured scaffolding in order to understand me. You would likely find such instruction an extraneous cognitive load and redundant. Being proficient in Hebrew, your cognitive processes are free to make connections between the information provided and the knowledge already stored schematically in long-term memory. For instance, being a Christian, you might recall that you have heard the English translation of the Shema before, and may even make connections with the Gospel of Mark, the schematic knowledge stored in your long-term memory being automatically retrieved. If you are Jewish, on the other hand, you may have retrieved information that relates to what you have heard or learned in your daily prayer. While scaffolded information supplied with novice instruction may be essential and beneficial to learning, the same information supplied to a student with expertise may prove to be redundant, and may in fact result in expertise reversal effect. Redundant instructional information may impose an additional extraneous cognitive load for the student who already has some expertise, since it increases elemental interactivity in working memory. The information that is already processed and contained schematically in long-term memory is called upon to verify and reinterpret newly presented but redundant information in working memory, and impacts upon the limited capacity of working memory.